I
Oh, really? What
was
happened?
getting ready to fly out on Christmas Eve, ready to go meet the family back east in New York. We were all having a family reunion. Wednesday, I felt it coming. I got that scratchy
Oh,
throat,
no.
sweats, chills, headache. I got two tests. I got the rapid test and the PCR definitive test. Boy, came back positive. Had to cancel my trip and spent the holidays alone.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well,
How did you do with the course of the illness?
Well, it wasn't that bad. I came through it pretty quickly, but now with recent at-home COVID testing boom, we're going to tell you everything that you need to know before you start swabbing yourself at home. And joining us now is infectious disease specialist Dr. Linda Nabha, who's going to walk us through this important information. Dr. Linda, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Dr. O. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and this is such an important topic. So enlighten us. What do people need to know about the difference between at-home COVID tests and the rapid tests being used at hospitals?
Right. So let's take a step back. There are two different types of tests to test for COVID. There's the rapid antigen test, and then there's the PCR test. So when you go to the store and you pick up that box, and you're going to get those results in 15 to 20 minutes. That's the rapid antigen test that you're testing for. The sensitivity of that is just a little bit less than the PCR. And the PCR test, which is what you get at the hospital or when you go to those testing sites that take a few days to come back, that's typically the gold standard. So one of the recommendations I certainly would give is if you're interested in doing at-home testing, which many people are, is so number one, check to make sure that box is FDA approved. There are a lot of scams online. So number one, make sure that it's FDA approved, and it'll generally say that on the box.
Obviously, with any of these tests, there's always going to be false positives and false negatives, correct?
That's absolutely right. And so one of the most important things is to remember that if you test negative from these at-home tests, it doesn't mean that you don't have COVID. And that's something to certainly take into account. If you test positive, you have to treat it as a positive test. But if you test negative, you've got to take it. It's a case-by-case situation. You could be in that early incubation period, which could be up to 5 days. This new variant, we're seeing people getting sicker sooner as opposed to the old Delta variant. And so by day 5, if you're testing and it's negative, you're feeling well, you're unlikely to be positive.
Dr. Ish, mentally, do you think the at-home COVID tests help ease COVID anxiety?
Well, I think it's a yes and when it comes to that, right? So yes, it eases your anxiety because you're being able to actively participate in your health and safety process, which is empowering, right? And then the other yes is it gives you some certainty, right? Do I have it or not? But the no, and Dr. Linda, I want you to weigh in on this because I've had a lot of friends and family over the holidays who are now distrustful of the at-home test because they had symptoms. They tested at home, the test came back negative, and now we're just more confused than anything. And so they didn't know what to do. So Dr. Linda, what was happening there?
Great
Sure.
point.
So it could be that they just tested a little too early. It was just during the incubation period. That's one potential scenario. The other thing is that with this new Omicron variant, we don't know how the sensitivity of these over-the-counter tests are. We still don't know. And so what I say to folks is if you're still feeling sick, you're concerned you were exposed, go get the PCR test. But the one thing I would say about the PCR test is don't go to the emergency room to get it. The emergency rooms are full. Hospital systems are completely overbooked. And so I would recommend going to see your physician or going to one of the testing sites to get a PCR test there. So when in doubt, if that home test is negative, go and get the PCR test.